All right, everybody, welcome. You're at a current presentation of Your Freedom Hub presents the Free Market Cash Patient Series. I'm your host, Jeff Cantor, along with Charles Frohman. As you can see, you can subscribe to these on an ongoing basis. This is the website you'll want to come to and register. And then also, this is being sponsored by yourfreedomhub.com. And effectively, that's the place to go to find out all of what's disrupting the world at the moment and what's going to be a better benefit for you, especially if you're a cash patient. So today we're going to have a great guest, but before we do, let me divert for one quick moment because I wanted to show you for a quick minute. This is what that subscription page looks like. And this is an example. I'll show you the links later, but this is where all of these are recorded and stockpiled. And you'll see there's quite a number of them in here, and they're building regularly and on a number of platforms. And we'll come back and talk about those momentarily. So, but on that note, let's kind of get into where we're going to be going today. And I'm going to turn this over to Charles and let him have him give us a rundown on today's guest.
Sure. Thanks, Jeff, and welcome, Nazeera.
Thank you.
A while ago, one of my Google catchers for different terms found an article by Nazeera on primary care and how it doesn't have to just be one type, allopathic, and it can be other types of care, including Ayurvedic medicine from South Asia, India. And as the company that creates the cash payers, that's revolutionizing the market, our patients can go anywhere they want, and they're learning about integrative and natural alternatives to allopathy. And they still want allopathic medicine for the intense acute sicknesses and accidents, but they want alternatives for the basic care. So we're very excited to hear from Nazeera tonight. She is president of a company called Vendorship, which is a consulting company for contracts of a variety of means, and Nazeera can expand on that. She is a former director at a county health department. She is a former practicing physician, educated at Emory and also in India, and she has been a research director at Emory as well. So that's our introduction tonight.
Fantastic. Well, I would say now's the time, and let's hear what she has to say. So I'm going to turn the sharing responsibility over to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Charles. And thank you. Hold on one second. Let me get my slides.
There you go.
Yes. Thank you, Jeff. And thank you, everyone who are on the video and on the phone. If you can't see us, if you need to see us, the slides, you'd have to click on the link that you got it while registering. So my name is Nazeera, and I'm the co-founder and the president of Vendorship, Inc., and also the co-founder and the president of Chai and Just Chat. One is the social entrepreneurship, and the other one is our traditional business startup entrepreneurship. And we are helping IT, information technology companies, secure government contracts. We help them with the entire process. So the reason as Charles mentioned earlier, how he came across me presenting today is because of a monthly article that I write for Forsyth County News on various topics, and mainly it's an opinion column, so I write about my experiences. And recently I'd gone to India in November, October, November, and I was there at an Ayurvedic center. Though every Indian for sure has heard about Ayurveda, Siddha, and the Unani and all the old traditional medicine that is practiced. But of course, if you can see, the Western medicine is sort of overtaking because of the quick response to any illness or disease, but also comes the cons with it of side effects with the drugs. Agenda, I want to finish our presentation, the slide presentation, within the half an hour, and I want the rest of the time till 8 to be in discussion, interactive discussions. I have a very good friend on the phone who is a practicing Ayurvedic physician, so I would definitely love for her to chime in with her input and experience I'm gonna go talk about my background probably a brief seconds, for the reason I want you to understand why I am talking about Ayurveda today. The disclaimer is I'm not an Ayurvedic practitioner, and I do not have all the knowledge that an Ayurvedic practitioner would have on this vast subject. And I would go through my Ayurvedic experience and why I felt it was important for me to write about it, and how Charles found me through that. And then, of course, I'll go through the research studies and the pros and cons of where the Ayurveda exists right now. And of course, why shouldn't we integrate Ayurveda into the mainstream is some of the discussion I would like for us to move forward. So I used to practice, I finished my medical school in the southern India, Karnataka. I'm originally from another state in Tamil Nadu, and finishing my medical school in Karnataka helped me understand a lot, especially at the population that were being served. Were very not into the preventive health journey during those times, and we're more into, do we have the magic pill, or is there something I can get rid of my diabetes, or prevent? They're not very much into preventive healthy lifestyle, because of usually health is put in the back end, right? Back burner, because you have a busy family, supporting the family, or at work, and especially now the metropolitan cities have a huge traffic, much worse than Atlanta sometimes in those cities. So after I practiced medicine in India for a couple of years, I realized I wanted to be more in the preventive health field, where I wanted to have people to learn about prevention. I wanted them to understand that instead of getting the complications of diabetes, how to prevent diabetes, how to prevent heart disease, how to lead a healthy lifestyle. So I finished my Master's of Public Health from UNC Chapel Hill. And in fact, after finishing, I went back to India and practiced in India, implementing public health prevention programs in all these hospitals in the Tamil Nadu state. So one of my programs that I implemented was very well received in all of the 65 primary healthcare centers across the state. And I was acknowledged for that as well. And then I came back to Atlanta in 2005, and I joined Emory University, doing mainly clinical trials research with federal grants and on myocardial infarction patients, and understanding the smoking behaviors and the non-smoking behaviors and the myocardial infarction cofactors. And then I found my dream job as a government county health promotion division director, and I loved the job at that time. And because I was able to get with the community straight, I was able to build several coalitions, and within the 3 years' time, was leading the $9 million grant that we received from the federal government to prevent chronic diseases. And then I went into, I ran for office in my own city that I'm in now. And then I also was promoted to becoming the chief of staff at the county commissioner's office, which was completely in the political arena. So understood more of the government inside and outside. And then in 2017, mid or later of 2017, I resigned from being the chief of staff, and felt it was the best time for me to become an entrepreneur. So we opened up Vendorship, and because of my passion to serve, I do the monthly Chai and Just Chats, which is a social entrepreneurial forum. So practicing medicine in India, how did it feel practicing medicine in India in those years, right? Like I said, sometimes the people we served were so naive, I would say. And they just, I would say sometimes they ate much healthier food than us. Sometimes even coming from the fields, they'd be working in the field. So they didn't lead a much sedentary lifestyle. But we saw a mix of population because they didn't go for regular checkups. You would see a lot of anemia. That means they're not eating a nutritious, good diet because they're working very hard every day and they're spending more time in how to support the family or the child or the baby or the child in school. So I've gained a lot of experience. You see on the right side here is a great mentor of mine whom I met with her. She was 83. She was 83 then, and now when I met her, she's almost 95 or 96. I saw her this time when I went to India after probably a decade. And it was very emotional because just the circle of life, they say when a baby is born and when you are in your older age, almost the similar age, they need support. And I saw that full circle actually it was a very emotional reunion with her for me. And so practicing medicine in India was, of course, the allopathic medicines, because I'm an allopathic practitioner. I finished my medical school. So I would be prescribing things like our usual metformin. You'd be prescribing your painkillers that for the prescriptions, right? And the reason I put this picture here is because it was a very rural urban area of the hospital, which was very famously known for women's reproductive health as well. They had the children's home right there. They had an orphanage. They had an adoption home. They had a senior center. So just telling you, in the evening times when I was not practicing, when I was not in the outpatient department, I would go enjoy with those kids or the seniors. I would just sit with seniors. At those times, it was a little bit stress-free life, just enjoying what came along with the hospital. Okay, so now that people are talking more about Ayurvedic practice, the reason I put this slide is when I was practicing, it was a norm. Like as we were practicing in one room, the Ayurvedic or a Siddha doctor would be sitting as a consultant in the other room. And we would be all chatting together. We'd go out for lunch and nobody would question each other. Hey, why did you give this to my patient? Why did you take away my patient? That was my patient. Nobody was obsessed about or territorial about their patients or clients. And as you can see, here in this picture, the one down in the colored one, you can see Lakshmi Seva Sangam. That's basically a center where next to our hospital where we were practicing, the center which was producing Ayurvedic drugs. You can see how it's a formulation, it's measured, it's made, it's measured, and probably Hina can talk about it later. It's measured to the right quantity because each client, and we'll talk about it, why it's measured in the right formulation. And you can see right here, my mentor is launching that Ayurvedic product formation, and that means employing the local people local community who don't have jobs, who don't have to go far away. So it was more of a use of natural traditional ways instead of going all chemical and non-natural way of getting treatment. So this was what I'm trying to get through this slide is it was just natural. I mean, there was nothing inorganic about Ayurvedic consultant sitting next to a allopathic medicine. Anytime we would see a diabetic patient, we would see an infertility case. Anytime we would see an arthritis who's already been on some of the medications, we would refer them, do you want to take some naturopathic or the Ayurvedic medicine consulting? And that person is right there. So that was sort of a prescription we would give, just like how nowadays the doctors are saying, I'm prescribing you to walk every day, so it was just a natural thing to happen. Okay, so I know, Jeff, you said you don't know much about Ayurveda, and maybe I'm not the best person to tell you about Ayurveda, but I can at least tell you so your knowledge would increase by 30% today. So Ayurveda basically means knowledge of life. It comes from the Sanskrit word, which means knowledge of life. It just means a way of life. What do you mean by life? Life is not just your physical body. Life is also your mental, your social, your spiritual and emotional health as well. So this Ayurvedic practice has been there almost for 5,000 years. So you can imagine when it's been practiced for 5,000 years, even though the documentation is huge of why people chose this herb in this formulation for this disease, or what did they ask prescribed for us during those times, you can definitely see that there are no research findings based on those. So what we have in Ayurveda currently is this huge knowledge base that exists. But in the Western world, and you'll see me saying this again and again, in the Western world, you want to see, what is the best practice? Can you show me evidence base? What is the evidence base? What does the results show? What does the randomized control trial show? I have been a researcher in Emory University, so I know exactly. But then there are some things you just can't prove everything by research. It comes with testimonials, it comes with experience, right? Okay, so Ayurveda is almost body, mind, and soul. You cannot relieve the symptoms or the disease of the body without addressing your mind and your soul. So just think, that is what Ayurveda is. Ayurveda is treating you as a system, not just treating your liver, not just treating your heart. It is treating your body, mind, and soul. So you can actually see it falls very much in what I did in public health, talking about prevention of disease, right? How do we rejuvenate our body systems? And then lifestyle intervention. So when I mean body, when you go to a physician, yes, I have a headache, I have a flu, I have a cold, I have this, I have that. They are not used, the system here has not taught the students or medical doctors or the students, doctors would be, to look at the person as a whole, right? We are taught to, okay, so this person is this, he has this, he has might be ulcer or regurgitation. So how do we just treat that? We don't go beyond that. We just give him some anti-acidity drugs or medication, and we tell him to take it for 10 days. Okay, here's the antibiotic, take it for 10 days. We don't realize what else is going on in that person. But Ayurveda doesn't allow you to just go and give you a prescription. They go through the entire thing. What are the other blocks that exist? Are you mentally depressed or anything else going on? How is your diet? So in Ayurveda, diet is very important, very, very. How is your nutrition? How is your nutrition and your mental status? So that is very much involved in the Ayurvedic treatment, as you'll see in my future slides. So one thing that Ayurveda teaches is we are almost, our inner self is almost equivalent or comparable to the universe. So universe has the cosmos, the internal cosmos or the external cosmos. Just like the universe has the cosmos, in our body, within ourselves, we have the cosmos. So if we can align that with our body, mind, and soul, we are good. If there is some disturbance between any of that in our body, that's when we get an illness or we get a disease. So you can see one of the Ayurveda, very much Ayurvedic text or the scripture very clearly says what I've said in the third last sentence, that the man is the epitome of the universe, right? So if he can correct the things within himself as a whole, then the things can be corrected fully. And again, Ayurveda, so imagine if we are giving metformin to one person and to the other person we give metformin, another milligram, maybe another dosage, but it is metformin. In Ayurveda, it's not like that. Ayurveda, every person is considered as unique because they're, as we go to the next slide, we learn more why is each person unique. And because each person is unique, even the oils that are prescribed for them for massages are different in composition or the formulation. Okay, so if I want you, we'll look at this diagram soon, but I want you to know that Ayurveda is mainly because the universe, we just talked about the universe, what the universe is made of. In actually the cosmos, we are also made of the same thing within us. So the 5 main elements in Ayurveda is the earth, water, fire, and space. So Jeff, if you know anything you've learned from this slides coming out this evening, the main 5 elements, that's all Ayurveda believes in, that the universe is made of these great 5 elements. So basically we are also going to be of the same composition, right? But in our human bodies, these 5 elements are compared in pairs, right, to form 3 dynamic forces, and which are called doshas. Doshas basically means that which changes, right? So Vata is air and space. So you can, if you look at this diagram, you can clearly see Vata is air and space, and Kapha is earth and water, right? And Pitta is fire and water. So every person contains all these doshas, except the proportion varies. And I'll tell you when I went to the Ayurvedic center, and I'll show you which dosha I had predominantly, right? So I'm going to show you that. So that was a very simple questionnaire that they did, and they talked to me and they took the intake and how. So diseases result because of an imbalance in the proportion. Each person has to have a balance. Might be this dosha is this much, but because imbalance happens either due to your diet or your stress, there is an imbalance, and then you get diseases like arthritis, skin diseases, ulcer, diabetes, and all the chronic diseases. Okay, I know it's too much for you to understand in your first reading of Ayurveda, but basically what they find out because the Ayurvedic practitioners are going to find out if your Vata is disturbed, if your Pitta is disturbed, or your Kapha is disturbed. Basically, they're going to find out which of the 3 doshas is imbalanced for you. They're also going to find out which is the predominant one for you as well. And when they'll notice that these are the symptoms that happens physically, mentally, and emotionally. So let's say I think if I go back, I forgot, but I think they said Kapha was my predominant one. So I have to sort of balance it out. So they gave me some diet through diet and all that. So you can see if my Kapha is disturbed physically, these are the signs I'm going to get. I'm going to gain weight, or I'm going to have a poor circulation. I'm going to start coughing. If I'm mentally disturbed, if the symptoms go further, then I'm going to be procrastinating, drowsiness, and I'm going to be a bored person. Emotionally, then you have the depression and lethargy and all this. So this is just one. That's why each one is unique, and only an Ayurvedic practitioner, it's just like an allopathic medicine doctor, can diagnose whether there's a liver disease or there's anything else going on through tests and questionnaires and examining you. Only an Ayurvedic physician can actually mention exactly what is going on with you. Okay, so basically, I think what you have to, you don't have to go details of these slides. What I want you to understand from this is you can see definitely why digestion, because I talked about diet, why digestion is very important in treating the disease for Ayurveda. The first thing they're going to change is understand your diet and then prescribe you. This is what we want you to take. If they do prescribe you, along with that, the herbal medicine that they are. The second slide that you see, the second portion in the slide is you can see a lot of me practicing medicine on the first side and how my friend Hina would be practicing Ayurveda on the other side. And if you look at any domain, any aspects of this, you will see predominantly Ayurveda is treating you as a person as a whole, and understanding you as a whole, not just physical, and giving you here, take this medicine for this one. It's not targeted, it is compounded with lifestyle modification as well. Otherwise, even in this morning, I had a good conversation with her. I said, if I need to go for panchakarma, it's a cleansing mechanism, and I'm going to talk about it briefly. And the way she said, Nazeera, if you have to, then you have to decide fully, because it's a 5-day. You have to do yoga in the morning. You cannot eat this. You have to go on a diet, and you will go through some major changes during that period. So Ayurvedic doctors are going to make sure you're compliant. Otherwise, you're not a good patient at all. So even if you miss one medicine, it's okay in allopathic medicine, but in Ayurveda, they want to make sure you're following all their subscribed thing. Okay, so I told you I'm going to talk briefly about Ayurvedic experience and how even though I've been many years ago, when I told you I was practicing medicine, the Ayurvedic consultant was sitting next door, but the curiosity never expanded to understand what all she does, because we were just, focused on our lane, our allopathic medicine. We're treating infertility. We're treating all the other disorders that come that patients come with, or conditions that they come with. But I just took up because after a long time I went back to India, and I just needed some rejuvenation. I just wanted to rejuvenate. I wanted to forget all the stresses of life, the everyday thing that life brings. So I chose this. It's nothing to promote any center or anything. I think this is just to give you a real-time example of what the experience you can have, and why those things that are there around this experience has the whole nature surrounding you, right? Rather than just treating you. So you can see on the left first side how they had all the daily activity. Yoga starts at 6, and then mountain climbing, and then you have the evening session, then you have another meditation in the evening, then you'll have the massages during the day, then you do this. This is how they welcomed us. I had gone alone, so they garlanded me and welcomed to the center. Okay. So the best part of being there was the scenery, and I cannot forget the food. I mean, Jeff, if I know the way person you are, you would love it, okay? It was all vegetarian, nothing was processed, everything was freshly made, and the water that you see, that sort of look has that wineish look. It's not wine, it's water with some cumin, and I think their powder that they usually have. And usually the water that I noticed was served warm, right? There's no, and mostly I've seen in India, there's no use of ice. So I think there's so much more to using warm water every day. And you can see how simple yet very, that was the best part. And I had my spot over here. I could see the mountains and the overlook. I'm not saying every Ayurvedic treatment or place would have this, but I'm just saying they want to make sure relaxing means completely relaxing your mind, your body, and your soul. So just sitting there and chewing on the food and acknowledging and counting the blessings gave me more appreciating life and appreciating me for myself as a blessing to do more, right? You can see the buttermilk. This side is one of the main thing, and ghee is also ghee is clarified butter is also a main part of the Ayurvedic food. The view, right? Oh my gosh, this is the rightmost that you see is the top of the mountain. So we had to get up at 6. There was yoga for 1 hour, and then from 7 to 8 we had to climb the mountain. Such fresh air. You don't see any cars going by. All you see far is a small lake and the flowers and the mountains all over. And this is the whole team. I got the whole team, and I said, no, I need to take picture with you guys. You know, it's going to be very memorable for me. And if you see this, let me see. So if you see this picture, you can see there are steps, right? Steps leading to this place. These trees are called karanja. Charles, these trees are called karanja. Okay. So, and here are benches, and these trees are planted in a circle way, right? And the lady, her name is Komal, she tells me when I joined the center, when I went for the retreat center, she said, if you sit here anytime during the day, she said this karanja trees have the ability to reduce your age. I'm sure she said reduce your age, but I'm sure there's something scientific else where they don't. The trees are giving me more good oxygen or something. This is me thinking in a medical perspective way, that they're not allowing my cells to die faster to age, right? So I don't know if that reduced my age in any way, but I did spend some good time apart just for reducing the age. I enjoyed the view. And there was a well here, a small well with fountain water going on. So that was really cool. This is me at 8 in the morning on top of the mountain. I video timed my friend, my dad and other friends, and said, look, I'm on top of the mountain. It felt really good. This was during the yoga practice in the morning. And if you see the rightmost, the big picture here is the typical massage table. So the massages are, once they take your intake, they will tell you which of your if you have a dosha. So my disclaimer is I did not go there for any disease to be treated. I just wanted rejuvenation. I wanted be re-energized before I came to US to go through this everyday, next life. You can't just sit back in US. You have to continue to work to support everything else. So this was the massage table. They would have hot oils, and they would have a different method. I've not seen any of those methods used in normal massages that we go for around here to just be re-energized. It was a very special. Usually there were two ladies, one lady this side, one lady that side. The strokes were different. Sometimes the hardness of them relieving the tension was different. They would use the hot oil, not very hot, but good hot oil. You can smell the roots because they're all herbs. They're coming naturally, so you can smell as if they were like, I just took out a root of a plant and I'm squeezing it. So that fresh smell. The reason I'm getting so excited again is because it's an unforgettable experience. And that massage oil was prescribed after the Ayurvedic practitioner told the ladies that, told the technicians that this is the oil that has to be used on me. As I said, Ayurvedic, each person is different, each thing is prescribed differently. And interestingly, we had a very handsome naturopathic doctor there in the center itself. He gave a presentation on what's of naturopathy, because like I told you, Ayurveda is entailing many other things to their everyday activities as well. And the reason I'm showing this picture, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it fully, but each section of our eye, the naturopathic doctors can tell you what's going on with you. They just have to examine it. And I was really surprised because I don't think we even have that in our allopathic medicine with all the new technologies. This was like every millimeter of the eye, which veins or which nerves are going through, however it was, he showed us how it can be very well said whether you're suffering from diabetes or which disease or illness. Okay, so I know this is sort of my inside information. If I go to an allopathic doctor and nobody shares what prescription we got, but I felt, because I'm talking about Ayurveda and I'm an everyday person, I wanted to show what happened. So when I went to an intake, they talked to me. She talked to me for 1 hour, my entire history. They gave me a form of 5 pages to fill up. So I circled and all that. And then I counted the whole score. And you can see Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, right? And you can see Vata is 85 and Kapha is 82. And based on my discussion with her, she said, they gave me an advice. They said I was Vata dominant, right? So because it was 85, not just because of the high score, because also she discussed with me other stuff. Okay. So she said, so if you can see, because of my previous history that she asked, if I'm suffering from any other disorders or illnesses, and how do I respond mentally? Do I get more angry? So she gave me this advice that I have the tendency to be affected with these. And then she said, avoid taking cold food items and some of these. So if I followed this religiously, I'm sure I'd be doing very well. But then again, life happens, right? So she also did give me the selection of food articles. She said what I should take and what I should avoid, and not just the vegetable materials, but also I think there is non-veg also. She said what you should take, what you should not take. But I think Ayurveda mostly promotes and advocates for vegetarian food, which I'm very fine with. I loved the food that I had here. And that, to tell you, that is the very common food that is offered in South India as well as in North India as well for vegetarians. So you can see this was what I got out of that Ayurvedic center, apart from the massages that I told you about, right? Okay, so I wanted to go about one more thing. So in this massage table, she prescribed, because I was there only for 2 days, because remember, I'm not going for any illnesses. I did meet 4 families there. One person was there because of sciatica, and he was there for 10 days. And believe me, it was not a makeup. It was not a simulation. He was a real person. He came from Mumbai. He stayed there for 10 days. And he said his pain, because he had an accident a few years ago, and he tried everything, everywhere, allopathic surgery and all that, nothing worked. Finally, someone recommended him to go to Ayurveda and stay for a few days. So he said his pain had improved by 70%. He said he was walking to me, he was walking and he was doing the yoga activities along with me. And he said, of course, it was not fully 100% resolved, but he said, last week I couldn't do all this, Nazeera, and because of the diet that was changed and prescribed to me, I'm following it fully. And being in the center, you have to follow it. There's no other go, right? Because the doctor's watching you, you have some family member or you don't, but basically you are spending some money, so you want to make sure you follow every prescription that they've given you and do all the activities. And he definitely said 70% has increased. And then I met another family whose whose wife had mental health issues. They've tried every mental depression, antidepressant and all that. And since they were in their first week, I think it was the first or the second week, and I'm trying to find out, does this actually work? And here I am again, a skeptic, a researcher, an allopathic physician. I'm like, okay, I just want to, because I've come here only for rejuvenation, but you are the one who's suffering from an illness. I asked that husband, is it really working? Again, we all are skeptics in our own world when we open our ideas for the new things, right? So the husband said the wife's condition has improved in the last 2 weeks by 30%, which I'm sure they're staying for another 2 or 3 weeks. They would see a lot of improvement. So I gathered more. It was more affirmation for me that this is working. And I know Charles wanted to talk to me about some of the research studies. And as I go to the next slide, I'll tell you what are the reasons that it's very hard and why is it still in the lagging. Ayurvedic medicines are still lagging behind compared to our everyday clinical trials on other medications, on allopathic medications. For the reason because Ayurvedic medicine is a formulation, right? It is not one drug. It is the combination of different things. For example, let me take turmeric, right? So turmeric has the predominant component called curcumin. Now, do you want us to do the test on turmeric or do you want us to do the test on curcumin? Because if you take the major component of that element and you do the test on curcumin, then it is less potent, right? Because you've taken only a portion of it. But in a combination of other things, when turmeric is used, then you see the formulation working better. So that is why it's very hard for especially very controlled clinical trials to happen. But in spite of that, there have been some done, and you can see some of the results. I was very impressed with the last result, where you can definitely see the increased increased immunity through these cells to prevent respiratory diseases. So you can see on the diabetes study, the second last column here, a significant reduction in HbA1c. And again, Ayurvedic physicians and doctors don't tell you to stop your allopathic medication, right? What has happened is if you notice, all of these Ayurvedic patients all of these patients are coming to Ayurveda only when other things have failed. Had they taken these suggestions in a preventive lifestyle, Ayurveda in a preventive lifestyle from the beginning, maybe they didn't have to come to the last stage. So I feel Ayurveda has been used as a last resort when they've tried everything else. So that itself is a skewed population that you have to research on, right? But I think nowadays the physicians are getting into maybe not just Ayurveda, but even the other available traditional medicine that's available to integrate that into their prescription, etc. And on the right side, you can just see some of the herb formulation for what diseases and what does it do. Again, because as Indians, we are more not really skeptic, and I used the word skeptic earlier because only I finished my medical school and my science, my research. So that's why I become sometimes more analyzing part and why and how. But usually Indians do not doubt the traditional medicine at all. And sometimes they go early, sometimes they just want a quick fix. So they go to our allopathic medicine, the everyday doctor, and then they go for either simultaneously they're doing allopathic, Ayurvedic treatment as well. But the right one is just to say, look, all these complicated diseases, chronic diseases. So for acute diseases, and maybe Hina can talk about it later, acute diseases like, it's an emergency, you don't go to the Ayurvedic doctor, because Ayurvedic is for anything that has been developed chronic, and now they have to fix those doshas of the chronic things that has happened, your unhealthy diet, unhealthy lifestyle that has led you to this chronic disease. So Ayurvedic doctors want to take time to fix it and take out the blocks in your system completely. Okay, yes, of course, more research is needed. As I told you right now, I just showed you some of the thing and why it's hard, even though people have been trying more and more RCT, randomized controlled trials are coming up. But if you see in this specific mention that in 2014, when they did 7,800 reviews in the Cochrane Library, there was just one study mentioned of Ayurveda. That's just in 2014. I'm sure there are more now, but again, it is still in the lagging stage. And why it becomes very hard to do the right research, because again, anything that you can think about becomes commercial, right? So yes, Ayurvedic products are coming more into as a beauty product, do this, do that. I don't know even the retreat that I went is commercial or not, but I just felt I got at least the 70% of what an Ayurvedic doctor would offer to me. But again, you have to be very wary of whom you are talking to, because there are more, I don't want to use the word exactly fake, but maybe the inefficient doctors just want to open up a clinic of Ayurveda and have the products there. And so as I mentioned earlier, patients are coming only in the last stage. They're taking it as the last resort. And as my friend mentioned this morning, Ayurvedic medicines and the treatment is not going to work without your proper lifestyle and diet change, not just during the treatment phase, but in order for it to work completely, you have to maintain that. So she said your discipline is very important. And I can imagine in this fast-paced life, who has the discipline to get up at 4 or 5 and do the yoga. So that's something we have to decide on our own mind. I'm going to change myself and me to a better one, right? Yes, and definitely when you talk about Ayurveda, things are going to come up as, hey, wasn't there a controversy? Wasn't there reports that they found lots of metal content or toxicity in the Ayurvedic medicines? This was way back. This was a few years ago, but since then, many things have changed. In the USA, as I understand what Hina was telling me, the stores that are selling in USA or in or approved stores have very less metals in them, and this has been showed in the studies. And the study that was showing the lot of metal toxicity was sort of flawed, because they compared the metal herbal medicine to a non-metallic herbal medicine, and they were sort of comparing. So the opponents were saying it was a little bit flawed, but anyway, so those are some things that come up. Okay. So now for the Charles always wanted to know why integration? Why is it important, right? We know you and Jeff was talking for long before the start of the session. It's becoming costly. Our healthcare is becoming costly. Chronic disease is just popping pills on an everyday basis. If you don't, then you're gonna go for higher surgery or something like that. So that is why integration of, when I mean Ayurveda, the traditional medicine that our very intelligent traditional scholars have left us, and with more processed food consumption and for convenience and for convenience, painkillers, we just want to pop a painkiller pill and then we become addicted to it, right? So for that, things like we can use Ayurveda as a personalized preventive medicine. More and more personalized medicine is coming up. So why can't personalized preventive physicians integrate or talk to the Ayurvedic doctors on how they are personalized? Is about your whole system. It's not just giving you a drug and leaving you. So I think they should all come together, the best of the Western and the best of the Eastern traditional knowledge to come together. Since 2016, the current government has integrated Ayush. Ayush is Ayurveda, yoga, Unani, and Siddha, and all that traditional medicines coming together. So they've included that. Of course, they would have to go through a course, and of course, Hina went through a complete, just like how I went to medical school. She went to medical school because she went to an Ayurvedic school to become an Ayurvedic doctor. So now they're integrating people like me who studied in medical school, and Hina, and giving both of us, they're bringing more of us together to talk to each other, right? Which happened, but not in a very formalized, systematic way, right? And then even in USA, there have been some universities that are coming up about herbs and supplements. In fact, last weekend we had a panel, cardiologist in the panel, and he talked about how he's certified in integrated medicine diploma. So he's doing more research on his cardiology patients with cardiologic preventing heart attack or all those diseases medicines, along with integrating with the Ayurvedic or the Siddha medicine. And he's doing research between India and here. And basically, I think I want to sort of end it up why, so you understand why the importance is, because I think I didn't go deep into this. I just showed you through pictures. Look, I enjoyed the nature. I was present in the moment. I had the best of the healthiest food. I felt I was relieved of all the stress, right? So that is what Ayurveda is about. And when it's along with the disease, they give you medications for your Ayurvedic medicine. In cases of emergencies, I mentioned the mainstream medicine is the first line of treatment. And of course, you cannot treat, in Ayurveda, you cannot treat your body without treating your mind and soul. So that's pretty much what I had. I know it's too much for this time, but I would love to open up for questions or discussions. And I do have my on the phone, so if it's going to be deep about Ayurveda, I would definitely love to involve her. What I wanted to do was increase this awareness, coming as an allopathic physician, why I love Ayurveda to be integrated into our allopathic medicine.
That was very nice.
Thank you.
Getting a little echo there from somebody, sounds like. Let me mute a couple people here real quick, just in case. I was going to say, yes, why don't you have your friend chime in a little bit here before we take some outside questions. I unmuted her, so she's kind of good to go.
Hina, I think she's not. Oh, yeah. Hina, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Hina. Please chime in. Anything important that I missed out?
No, you covered practically everything that Ayurveda stands for. So thank you so much for opening your heart and mind to Ayurveda, because that is the biggest step an modern medicine practitioner could take, especially in Western world. Well, I am pretty much open for any questions that I could answer, because the fundamentals have been covered very beautifully by Nazeera.
Hina, can I ask you one thing? Can you just answer one question? Is how has the controversy on heavy metals in Ayurvedic medicine been addressed so far?
It is still going on.
Okay.
But the current government of India has taken very good steps strategically to develop a standardization process for Ayurvedic medicines. Legally in United States, Ayurvedic is still not approved by FDA. So those medicines cannot be called as medicines. It will be called as Ayurvedic supplements because they are not scrutinized under clinical trials. To give my background, when I was practicing in India, we had a medical university attached to the hospital, a mainstream Western medicine, KM Hospital in Mumbai. And I was blessed to co-found a department of integrated system of medicine right there. And the best part of those 3 years of practice was I was sitting with an internal medicine practitioner, diabetologist, endocrinologist, rheumatologist. We used to sit together treating patients. And the way we used to get patients from was referred by them.
Exactly.
Once they find out that, okay, metformin not working anymore, what's wrong? So before going to insulin dependency, they would send the patients to us. Related to your metal controversy, there are at least 10,000 formulations in Ayurvedic texts and scriptures that contains metal. However, it has been documented in detail how those metals should be used.
Right.
It is never used single. It is always used with other herbs and manufactured and formulated in proper way that the toxicity will be completely eliminated, and the only focus would be on efficacy of those metals. Because there was no standardization process earlier in place, toxicity was more. However, as I said, it has been improving significantly. Whereas in United States, yes, still metal, any formulation, Ayurvedic formulation that has any metal as an ingredient are banned. It cannot be sold here in the United States. So any authentic company who would manufacture any Ayurvedic formulations cannot have any metal as an ingredient.
Sure. So I want to mention one thing, Jeff and Charles, before we open it up for questions from others, is the Shirodhara massage. Okay. Oh my gosh. So I'm so excited now because I can still feel. So they will lay you on the table, and the oil, the hot oil, and I mean hot is not very hot, it is bearable. Oil drips in on your forehead like this for almost half an hour. I'm sure it has a scientific backup, which I don't think we've done research on and why, but I actually went on a trance. I mean, I was like, I think I was in heaven. Okay. And believe me, I wasn't taking any drugs. I was with all the good things going around me. On top of that massage oil that was going, nothing, they didn't touch my body. It was just the oil that was dripping. You're laying and then oil is dripping like this on your forehead for half an hour. And it's not just one spot. It's like small spots, continuous lines back and forth on your forehead. I can vouch that I went on trance at least 10 times during that half an hour. Sleep and then I'm waking up, sleep and then I'm waking up. This is broad daylight, right? So that was something I loved. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened there? And just that smile, that energy that I still feel talking about it, I feel so positive immediately. So those are some added on efforts that comes through Ayurveda. And it was not just any oil. They prescribed that oil formulation for me separately, understanding who I am. And even those small things to be integrated with your primary care physicians when a person is going through mental stress, has blockages, has tears, is depressed, just giving them that, not just a normal massage, but this is the traditional 5,000 years ago massage with herbal medicine. These are all herbs, oils, and I think would add, and I think we are devoiding the current patients from our mainstream medicine, from all these good energies that they can get. I just want to take it up like that.
I was going to ask a question in terms of somebody that's new to this and thinks, boy, I'd like to try to find such a practitioner, and in anticipation of this call, I looked to see what was local here, and there are a number of places listed. How do you really figure out who are the real ones and who are the ones that are more just there for taking advantage of the interest in this?
I would revert to Hina, because I think, and after that I want to add to what she says.
Sure. Thank you for that question. Very interesting question. the way I would find the real ones will be their education, first of all, because Ayurvedic medicine education, as Nazeera mentioned, it is a complete 5.5 years course, and that includes practical and clinical training at least for 2 years. For me, whoever has completed that training and education would know at least the fundamental principles and know the authentic way of practicing Ayurveda. However, there are some schools started in United States where there is Ayurvedic practitioner certification course. They are also doing pretty good job. However, I have not explored more on that, but those practitioners whom I have been in discussion related to some clients, it looks like, yes, they do have touched the surface of Ayurvedic knowledge. But ideally, as I mentioned, an Ayurvedic doctor who has learned this as part of their education of 5 to 7 years would definitely be the ideal person to reach out to.
Sure.
Does it answer your question?
Yes, and I would want to add, Jeff, that I was referred to this specific, not just the center, but also the doctors in the center, at least by 3 or 4 top Ayurvedic practitioner physicians. And also I had a good testimonial from someone who was not in the Ayurvedic field that it's one of the best. So I think word of mouth helped me become comfortable, because this was me, even though I know Ayurvedic doctors, but this was me getting into to understand more. I felt comfortable that I had a very good referral with a very good, it was a word of mouth, but it was a very good referral when I went. So I had a very good positive going in and coming out.
Excellent. Kisho, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'm actually Kishore. Somehow it shows up as Kishore.
Gotcha.
So I've been using Ayurveda for almost 20 years now. And it started when I was getting stomach bleeding. And the treatments from Western doctors were of zero effectiveness. And it worked. But there are some challenges when you use Ayurveda. I mean, I consulted my brother who has a full 5.5 years training in India in Ayurveda, and he's very passionate about it. He knows what to do, but he's working in this environment where actually the Indian doctors have only created their problems for themselves. California does allow alternative treatments, including Ayurveda, but you have to be licensed. And it can only be licensed through some kind of association of Ayurvedic doctors. And because Indian doctors can never agree on anything, that licensing process has never been implemented. But even with those limitations, I have to say that going to a retreat is almost every time very effective. It transforms you. The challenge is when you have to do it on an everyday basis. Then you face all kinds of constraints. And if I'm using Ayurvedic doctor like my brother, he has constraints due to what kind of herbs he can use. He usually gets it directly from India. But it seems like despite that, there are issues. And of course, as you said, it's holistic. So you have to do it all. That is, you have to do the yoga, and you have to do the meditation, and you have to do the diet, and you have to take the herbs. But in an environment outside of a retreat, you can at best do diet and herbs. The others are, you could do yoga, but there's still challenges of doing all of these together on a regular basis.
Very well said, Kishore.
I'm sorry?
I said very well said.
Yeah, I mean that maybe if we have some kind of application which puts the information together, we might be able to do it. But even then, it's going to be tough. Whereas in a retreat, you can do it all.
Yes, and I think I mentioned that during my talk is, but how do when we come to the real life after the retreat, after seeing all this good and you've transformed into positive, how do you keep that positiveness to going on? So it is a challenge because, like I said, Ayurveda, you cannot just take the herbal medicine. It's not going to work. You have to change your mind. You have to change your thought, everything, because all those elements that are in your body, you have to change. And I think the ones who are disciplined are learning to become, and we all have an opportunity to change and have that will every day, which I'm sure, Kishore, if you're still on the treatment, you have been, and it's to start, right? And for me, the question is, when can at least a patient of the allopathic medicine or the Western medicine has an opportunity to know that this whole other field exists? Maybe 50% of them are disciplined and they can do this if they want to feel good and healthy and be happy and smiling. Maybe if they do this, but I want us. Yes, that is a challenge. One of the challenges. You take her Ayurvedic medicine, you have to go through your mind, body, and soul, not cleansing, but even in your thoughts. So that's something I think based on each person's will and support system that they have.
Right.
And I'll quickly, I can pitch in here as well as an Ayurvedic physician and being practicing for almost 20 years. First of all, yes, to start with, you need the discipline. However, Ayurveda also recognizes the importance of life, which cannot be disciplined every day. Yes, yoga is recommended, but the same way that WHO has been recommending that, okay, if you cannot do exercise every day, do it at least 3 times a week. There are similar options in Ayurveda as well. There are some, we call it as a toolkit, Ayurvedic toolkit that you will go with after the Panchakarma treatment or the disciplined 5 days or the disciplined 1 week of your cleansing and the rejuvenation part. You come out with a toolkit, as Nazeera came out with, that, okay, what are the food items that you just cannot have? However, what are the food items, yes, you can try to avoid? What are the food items you should consume on a regular basis? So there is a chart for physical level, like diet, sleep, yoga. There is a toolkit and recommendation as mental level that, okay, if you cannot do meditation every day, no worries. There are some quick meditation that you can do it even in 5 minutes. If not every day, every other day. It will, the important part is taking the first step.
Yes.
Very good.
Question, if I can.
Yes.
I was going to say, Charles, we is another amazing topic as usual, and sadly, once again, we're running out of time here, so we've got a chance for a last question. Last question, we will certainly entertain it.
Anil raised his hand.
Oh, okay, go for it then, please.
Thanks. Very educational forum, to say the least. So the question is to Hina, compared to India, are the formulations and the treatment style and technique differ much from India? Are all the formulations available in the US? And then the second part of the question is, would some people question the religious intones, connotations of this treatment, which doesn't concern me, but nevertheless, that's a question some people would have. My main question is, are the treatment techniques and formulations available in the US just as readily as they are in India?
Thank you for that question. Yes,
And Hina, I think you went on mute.
I had her muted. It was a little noise in the background there.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Can
I
you
got
hear?
her opened up
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that question. Yes, the formulations, I would say at least 60% of formulations are available and allowed to be practiced here in the United States. Again, those that does not contain any metal as an ingredient. Another part is whenever I talk about Ayurveda, I always feel blessed because the foundation has been laid so clearly that you can practice Ayurveda in any part of the world with the toolkit that has been provided, that how to go for it. Each individual is unique, and each individual can have certain kinds of herbs and their formulations which are easily available anywhere around the world. So, for example, I'm just giving an example. If turmeric is not available in the United States, there is another herb which has similar properties, which has similar efficacy on similar conditions, which could be an option if turmeric is not available. So I would say practicing in India would be the ideal place because I will get access to every formulation that I wish to use for my client. However, United States, I must say, I have been enjoying practicing here just for one reason, and that is my client. So by that, I mean that my American clients are more disciplined than my Indian clients. Yes, and I'm glad because they understand the importance of it, their own health. They take control of their own health and they decide that, yes, I have been suffering from this concussion, for example, for more than 5 years, and now I'm ready to change. And just when Nazeera mentioned about Shirodhara is a process or a therapy part, which is not only for rejuvenation, it is also for treatment. So I have treated patients of concussion just by Shirodhara.
Well, sadly, I have to actually kind of call it a quits here because we really have reached the end of our time frame, or by then and then some. But I'll tell you, this is great. We're going to definitely have to have a follow-up session off of this as we move forward. So definitely thanks so much for being here today and everybody taking the time to join us.
Thank you so much for hosting, Jeff and Charles. And thanks, Nina, and thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you.